Hello and welcome to Exit Strategically, the series that helps MSP owners plan their exit. I'm Amy Babinchak, co-founder of Sell My MSP and longtime MSP business owner.
And I am Rayanne Buccianico, also co-founder of Semi MSP and a longtime MSP accounting firm owner and co-creator of the Strategic Exit Assessment. You've probably heard us mention that before.
Together, we're the folks that coach you through your sell and help you exit strategically because there is a process to selling the business. We've been doing this for 10 years and we're ready to share some of our secrets with you. Today, we're going to talk about the actual exit plan section of the assessment, which is the final in this series. So let's get to it. Rayanne, do you want to show us what that looks like?
I do. And as you can see, this particular QuickBook IT has an awful lot of red in their assessment. So what we do is we ask some questions based on your plan to exit your business, and you grade yourself or you rate yourself from anywhere 1 to 10, and we take those answers and provide you with the action steps needed to get to the next level on it. And so this is what the report looks like when it comes out.
Hey, Rayanne, could you show us oops, you closed it already.
Oh,
Could you show us
sorry.
the final page of the report?
Oops, wrong one. My
Get it
bad.
right.
There we go. Nope, still wrong. One of these, one of these is, there we
It's all
go.
right.
This is the final page. What page are you looking for? The first one.
The advisory one, where we're telling them what you're going to be doing next.
Oh, so each one of the questions comes with a why did we ask, and these are the steps to take to follow through. But I don't think we have another page.
Yeah, so get to know where you are and then where you need to go next. So the report isn't just informational, it's actually got great things to do
And
so you
it
know
comes
how to go.
and it comes with the guide to how to use the report. So it will tell you how to interpret your results and how to use the step by step so that you can take these actionable steps and move forward.
Fantastic. All right, so today we're going to actually go over the questions that we do ask in the report and tell you why we ask those particular questions and why they're of interest to buyers. The first question in the report is, do you have a polished elevator pitch for selling your business? Many people, and we actually talked about this last time, the importance of having an elevator pitch for selling your services, but do you have an elevator pitch for selling your business? Because these
Well,
are two different things.
what would that look like? So let's say I you are selling your business, right? And you're telling me about it. And then you would have a 30-second, give or take, pitch on the highlights of your business. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah, so what happens is we either connect you with a buyer or buyers call you once the word gets out that your business is interested in selling. And you have them in a Teams meeting like this usually, and they ask you like, tell me about your business. Well, if you kind of stammer and stutter and don't know what to say, that's not a really great first impression. So this is your first impression of why your business is a good one to buy. So you want to tell them about the steady growth that you have, what's in your pipeline, how long-term your staff is, how long-term your clients are. If you have a vertical, you want to tell them about that, right? And how your expertise is in that vertical. So you want your sales pitch to be aligned to what the buyer's going to be looking for. Like, why are you a good buy? Why do I want you?
So, Just out of curiosity, throwing this out there, like it would seem to me that keeping the money out of that initial pitch, like you, how much you're making or how or what your profit percentages are, like is that something that people would want to put into their pitch, or just really talk about the the quality of the company and what the company has to offer
I would
for
talk exclusively about the quality of the company and what you offer, because the next question, like if they're interested in that, the next question the buyer's going to ask you is, well, what are your profit margins? What's your EBITDA? Blah, blah, blah. They'll start to ask you details about it. If you give your little pitch and they go, yeah, that's not really a match for us, they'll wander off at that point. You don't have to have all that other conversation. But yeah, so tell them why you're interesting, and then they're going to come to you with all the rest of the detail questions.
awesome.
So the next question that we have is if they have completed a business valuation and how current it is. Um, and if you have a reasonable understanding of what your business's actual value is to a buyer. This falls in your category, Duane.
That there are there are plenty of people that walk the face of the earth with a business that have no idea what that business is truly valued at. Often, because our businesses are made of our own blood, sweat, tears, and years of working and building. We have this emotional connection to our business, and we may think it's worth all the way up here, and but some buyer comes in, they've never seen your business before, they may have a different idea as to the value of that. Most of the time, these business valuations, if you go to any business broker or anybody who's going to help either sell or even buy your business, they're not going to want to see any business valuation that is older than 6 months. Maybe you could push 12 months out of it. Hey, I just had this done, last May, and it's only March and we don't have an updated one. Some people may accept that, but for the most part, you will likely want to have a business valuation done once a year if you are truly serious about selling your business and getting top dollar for it. And you should use that valuation too, because as you see the trend of the values, right? If you have one done 2 years ago, one done last year, one done this year, look at the values. How, are they going up? Are they coming down? And what can you do to increase those values over time? And that's what our report also does.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is the buyer's going to do their own valuation of your business after you present your valuation, right? Then they're going to, if they're serious, then you'll enter into an NDA with the LOI, and you'll be sharing some of your reports out of your accounting package with them, and they're going to run their own. So it's interesting to see. Everybody has their own idea of what EBITDA is. I know when I was selling my company, the numbers were all over the place depending on what their priorities were. So really interesting to see that. So there's really no single valuation. I know when Rayanne does the valuations for our customers at Selma MSP, you do what, 3 or 5 or
I
different
do
methods?
four. I
4.
I use four different valuation methods, and then I take the top, the bottom, and then the average, and then I average those together. Um, and so I use the earnings based, the discounted cash flows, and then one based off of gross revenues with weighted averages, and then one based on gross profits. Um, you know, one of the one of the valuation methods is assets, but most MSPs are not very asset heavy. So there's not going to be an awful lot of assets to value. And that would just bring that number down. So that's why I chose the four that I use.
Yeah. So This is the part of the discussion in our assessment of what everybody just seems to think that their due diligence as a seller is, right? The next question is, have you documented your revenue and income trends for the last 5 years, right? I feel like that's like, if I'm just going to a generic, like, that's what everybody thinks they have to do to get ready to sell their business. And as we know, we've spent hours talking about all the other things you have to do. Um,
Right.
So what do they do to document revenue and income? Just run some reports out of QuickBooks?
Right. So, and that's probably the easiest report to run. You can just open up your accounting system, QuickBooks, Sage, whatever you're using, and you can run the P&L. You can run it by month, by quarter, by year, and you can run as many months, quarters, years that you would like to see so that you can see those trends. Quarters, and quarters are one of those things that it will tell a story about the cyclical, events in your business. The first quarter of the year is either very good or very bad, and if you see that same trend every year for 5 years, then you know to expect, lower revenue in the first quarter and higher revenue in the fourth quarter, or whatever those trends are. If you're big in, city government and schools or whatever, you know that the second quarter is going to be the large one because that's when they're getting ready to do all of their budgeting for the year. So yeah, it's a very simple report, and just store it in your data room with all of your other quarterly reports.
Yeah, it's really important to be able to explain those fluctuations too, right? In my business, we had 50% of our customers on quarterly billing. So when you looked at monthly revenues, it looked weird because every every third month there was this big spike. When you looked quarterly, it looked pretty normal. So you have to be ready to explain why these things happen. I know some people um, like to stuff their revenues in January. If their taxes look like they're going to be high for the previous year, then they'll stuff those revenues forward to January. We see that happen, and then January looks odd, right?
Right. And
So yeah,
January always looks odd because there's a lot of, year-end adjustments that your accountant might make, those accrual reversals and things like that that always land in January.
yeah. The next thing is, have you identified your timeline for the sale of your business and a potential exit? This is a hard one. I think it's fuzzy. It needs to be a little fuzzy because you can't be like, I need to be out by this date, because then you'll make a bad decision.
And sometimes life has a way of making different decisions for you. So, but it is always good to be as prepared as possible for that. Even if your your proposed exit, it might be, 3 or 4 years away. The sooner that you are ready for that, because you can continue to operate as long as you would like, knowing that you are prepared to exit at any time.
That's probably the best way to do it. You get everything ready, everything prepared, and then when the right buyer comes along, you're ready at that moment instead of having that actual hard timeline. Um, so which brings us to the thing is, you've identified a range of what's an acceptable offer and terms for you. There's a lot of decision making that goes into that.
There is. But I want to say that it should start somewhere around that valuation. So this one goes hand in hand with the recent valuation of the business. But it also needs to make sure that a number of things are covered. Look on your, look inside your company. Is there any long-term debt? Do you have any loans or leases that need to be paid off with any proceeds? How much money are you looking to make? Or in so one of the calculations I've done was, how many years of salary do I want? And, like if I just stayed here and worked, I would make this much money per year. And let's say I want 3 years of salary and I want to pay off my loans, my car loans, my COVID loans or whatever. And and so once I add up my salary and my taxes and my benefits and my car and my loans, and total them all up, that's what I need to walk away.
See, I made the decision in a completely different way. So, I went to my financial advisor, and the financial advisor said, okay, well, here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. Here's the difference in that number. And then I looked at that number and thought, I bet my business is worth that much money or more. And so then I started looking at the valuation of my company and went, oh, it is. So I think I may have reached a life goal, right? Um, and so that then made the confidence. Don't forget to talk to your financial advisors in what's your plan for after, right? This is part of that emotional period, right, where you're talking about the terms of the deal. The terms of the deal are not all financial. The terms of the deal also involve your working possibly for the other company. How do you feel about that? How long do you want to be around? Do you want to go to work for somebody else? Uh, Myself, I knew I worked for myself for so many years. Going to work for somebody else was not going to be an option. And those things do affect the offers that you're going to get or who's going to accept that offer. A lot of buyers will not do a deal where the owner isn't part of the buy. They want them around for at least a year afterwards. And some of them want you around for 2 or 3 years afterwards. I
I
will tell you the hardest thing you will ever do in your life is probably go to work for somebody else who just bought your company because they're not going to run it like you do. They're going to run it how they want to run it, and you have to fit your square self into that round hole.
And that is very true. That really is very hard for most of us who own businesses. We are entrepreneurs at heart. We've built this thing to run in a way that we know works, right? Because we've been doing it for 20 years. I do want to share a story though. Recently, um, one of our clients sold their business, and there were two shareholders. One stayed on as a permanent employee, and the other was only supposed to stay on for like 3 months, to help with the transition because he did most of the, administrative work and the billing and the procurement and all of that. So here we are in month 10, 11, coming up on month 11. He's still there because he doesn't have anything else to do and he's not quite ready to. For as long as they talked about selling the business so that he could retire, when that day came, he thought, yeah, I'm not quite ready to do this. So he just keeps showing up to work and he's not even required to put in any time, but he does to help out. He likes to stay involved, so think about that and just take a step back, sit quietly go for a walk, sit, in on the beach or I live in Florida, so a beach is a thing here, but, and just take some quiet time and say, okay, if I didn't have fill in the blank, the name of your company, what would I do when I wake up tomorrow? If there was no company to go to, what would I do? And build that list, whether in your head or on paper. What are the things that you're looking forward to when you do sell? Because you may be surprised at how much you rely on that business.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. There's the emotional part of seeing all the people that you work with. You have all your friends at work. Um, I talked to actually two people in a group that I mentor, both women's husbands. It's almost the identical story in both cases. Both of their husbands are 47. Both of their husbands have retired. They, the wife, spouse, has no intention to retire for a lot more years from now. So family dynamics are part of this too. They're trying to work out how that looks in their new family life, you know.
Right.
You've got one person who's retired and one person who is not retired. That's a interesting dynamic. I know of another case where one person in the relationship was a teacher, one person was not a teacher. Teachers retire in their 50s. Not teachers tend to retire in their 60s. And there's a big age gap. So they're bridging a gap of almost 25 years between their
Wow.
age gap and their employment gap. It's huge. So there can be a lot of stress. Selling a business is one of those life-changing moments that causes a huge amount of stress, just like going through a divorce or a death in the family or anything like that. It's a can be a health issue. So you want to take the time to prepare yourself mentally and have your after plan and make sure that the terms of your sale are supporting what your after plan is.
I totally agree. Yep.
Uh, all right, Rand, couple of takeaways for this session. Um, Obviously, go out and write an elevator pitch for your business sale, right?
And think long and hard about your timeline. When do you want to sell? You don't have to come up with an exact date, like we said, but what is your timeline?
Yep. The easy one is to get your financial reports together. At the ones that we talked about today, they just are going to pop out of your financial, whatever you use for accounting. The hard one is to have those conversations with family and financial advisors and see where you actually really truly are. I one last thing of that, I heard a story that a friend of mine actually told me that a friend of his retired and had no hobbies. And so his retirement plan was to every month go out and try something new so that he could figure out what his hobbies are going to be for the
Aw.
rest of his life.
Just
All
keep trying
right.
on different shoes. When
Uh,
something's bound to fit.
something will. All right. So that's it for today. We've been through all 5 components of the strategic exit plan. We have a brand new website. So if you go to our website at sellmymsp.com, you will find the assessment plan over there.